Welcome back, illustrators. We are moving on to a new chapter in our book, and this week it's chapter 9, adding type to a poster. So you guys have all used the type tool already, no big shock there, but we're going to learn, there's a couple of different kinds of type, area type and point type rather. We're going to learn the difference and how you can switch from one to the other. We're going to learn about some ways of formatting text, and then of creating and editing and using paragraph and character styles. So once we figure out the look of our document, what kind of font we're going to use for body, copy, and headlines, we can easily and quickly apply it. We're also going to reshape some text with a warp, which is pretty neat, and create type on a path. And then I'll show you outlining text, which takes it from being an editable font into basically just a shape. So we're going to start chapter 9 with opening the files in our folder. So in chapter 2020, Illustrator 2020 lessons, lesson 9, we are going to open the L9 start file, and that's going to give us 2 artboards. And some text is on here, but a lot of text is missing, and we just see dotted lines to help us kind of with positioning. Let's do a file, save as, and save this your name, and then recipes. And it can stay in the lesson 9 folder again. All right, let's go to artboard 1 and get that showing and enlarged here in our window. And I think I'm in the correct, in the correct workspace, but I'm going to double check. Yep, I'm in Essentials. So I'm just going to stick to that and we're going to move forward. So I mentioned briefly there's 2 different kinds of type. There's area type and point type. The cool thing with Illustrator is just like InDesign, which you guys are going to learn next semester, you can create documents with columns, with rows, we can place text inside shapes, we can flow text from one column to another. And the difference probably is that Illustrator, you're thinking more of doing maybe a recipe card or a single page handout or a couple of pages or a business card and something else. Whereas InDesign is where you really bring Illustrator, Photoshop, and page layout together to make multi-page documents. So point text is the first one, and this begins wherever you happen to click with your cursor. So let's switch to our type tool for starters. And now we see that our cursor, if we bring it over our artboard, shows like the insertion point like we would see in Word or anything else. And how this works is when we click, our insertion point is put down and everything we type spreads out from either the center, the left, or the right, depending on our alignment that we have chosen. So I'm going to click once, and it automatically fills in with lorem ipsum, which is filler text. This is actually something fairly new. They assume that you might want to see just what text looks like before you type any, or actually type any words. You might want to stylize it or something. If you don't like that, you can actually turn this off. It's just a simple setting of adding placeholder text option turned on or off. It's in Preferences under the Type category. I don't mind it, so I'm just going to leave it. And we're going to type in the word in capital letters, serves, colon, and then a space, 6-8. Maybe you weren't able to see this in action, but I'm going to click again in a random spot to put in my lorem ipsum. I am currently lined up with left justification or left alignment. So as I type, everything, the left side says anchor and everything just keeps going. But what you notice is there's no such thing as a page wrap or a column wrap or a return. Wherever you put this insertion point, it just keeps going. So I'm going to delete that bad boy. This is good for headlines or maybe captions under a picture, small text. And if you wanted to have that centered, and we had center align chosen here, and we put welcome to the show, we can see how that was centered with where I first made my insertion point. All right, I'm going to delete that. All we really needed to do was make this first one serves 6 to 8. With our selection tool, we're going to grab onto that and we're going to drag it down in between these dash lines right here on the left, and we're just going to plop it in there. All right, now we can grab one of these bounding boxes and we can stretch it. And notice it's getting bigger, which maybe is what we wanted, but because this is not held to proportions, we're really stretching it perhaps tall or wide or making it very short. If we were to hold shift, we could keep it proportional. So if you did some dragging around, undo it until it gets back to its small size and just kind of eyeball it in the center of that area. In the next area over, we're going to add some more type. So switch to your type tool and let's see, I'm going to put mine on centering and I'm going to click in the center, and on this one we're going to type time all in capital letters and then 15 MIN period. And then we're just going to grab that and kind of move it down also. We're making a recipe card if you haven't guessed yet. So point type is whenever we click with our cursor and we just start typing. The type goes from left to right or centers to infinity. There is no stopping it. It doesn't hit the end of the page and wrap around. Area type, contrasting that, uses boundaries of an object like a rectangle to control the flow of the characters. When the text reaches those boundaries, it's going to wrap. So with our type tool, let's see where we're doing this. Up above here, so above the serve 6 to 8, we are going to take our text tool and we're going to click and drag out our box first. It's approximately, what is it? About 1 inch by 1 inch. Doesn't really matter what it is in size, but draw out a box. Now, inside those boundaries, your lorem ipsum placeholder text shows up. And we're going to replace this with, in all caps, strawberry lemonade. And notice that when it got too wide, it couldn't even start the word lemonade. It automatically did a text wrap down to the next line. Switch to your selection tool, and we're going to drag the right lower bounding box to the left and then back to the right to kind of see how things change. So as we go wider, strawberry lemonade fits on one line, and as we go more narrow, we have to start hyphenating even. So as long as it's a box where the two words are on two separate lines, that's great. We're going to change it anyway. But the idea is, as you change the dimensions of this box, the text that you put in it flows to behave properly within those dimensions. All right. By default, every time we create area type by dragging out a shape with our type tool, the type that we put inside it is not going to auto resize to fit in here. It's going to be maybe not enough room or way too much room like we have here. So if there's too much text and it doesn't fit in your little box, you're going to get a little red plus down here that shows you that there's overset text, and we'll work with that soon. However, right now at the bottom middle bounding point, we have a little doodad hanging down here with a square. This is a widget, and when you see this, it means that the type object is not set to auto size. Obviously, we see all this dead space in here. So we're going to move our cursor over that black square, and when it changes, when we see that extra icon show up with our cursor, we're going to double click, and that's going to auto size. It's going to automatically make this box fit whatever you type in it. So it auto sized to the words we had right now, but let's take the type tool and we're going to click on the inside after the word lemonade, and we're going to hit enter and say with mint. Notice all that didn't fit on that line, so it automatically wrapped, pushed down another line, and our text box got bigger to accommodate it, which is exactly what we would expect. We're going to just delete out those words with mint. We actually don't want them. And again, the box is auto-sizing. All right, so the widget that hangs out the bottom, that's a box, if you click on that, you get the auto-sizing. We can click away to deselect, and we'll learn about converting between area type and point type. So what if you start with one and you wish you would have done the other? How do we go back and forth? The other thing that's helpful here is that if you paste text from InDesign, which is software, again, that you'll learn next year, if you paste text from InDesign into Illustrator, and nothing is selected on your Illustrator artboard, it's going to be pasted as point type, which means it's just going to run on and on and on forever, right to left. So a lot of times we do have to convert point type to area type. Let's fit our artboard in the window, and with our type tool selected, go back to that, we are going to make a text box for area type up above this red banner, and we're going to drag it out right above this red banner, and we're going to fill it with the word fresh in lowercase letters. So this text is ultimately going to be placed down here, and because it's going to be something that we're going to stretch out in size a little and want to fill, it's going to be better off as point type, not area type. This bounding box that we made was just a guesstimate. We're going to jump to our selection tool, and we have the widget hanging down here for auto sizing, but that's not really what we want to do. What we want to do is come over here to the annotator, and when it's filled in with blue, we know that this is telling us that this is area type, and we can easily see this based on the fact that there's still a big bounding box. So if we go over to the annotator, when we get a new icon, this one with the T, we're going to double click, and that's, whoops, I have to do it again, I guess. That's going to convert it to point type. The annotator at the end is now hollow, it's not filled in blue, and that shows us that it's point type. Notice how when I hover over that hollow annotator, it shows that if I double click it, it'll turn it back into area type, T with a box around it. All right, we're going to drag this text down here onto the banner, and we are going to hold on to one of the bounding points, and we're going to start to drag, but we're going to hold shift while we do it to keep it from scaling disproportionately. So we're going to scale it out and then move it back in the center of this banner. If we were to pull on it without holding shift, it would scale skinnier or taller or fatter, and we don't want that. We want to keep it proportionate. So now that we've done that, we can click away to deselect, and we can do a file, save as, and we are good through page 248.